Hi, my name is Jasmine Rantissi, and today I'm going to be giving an argumentative speech on the death penalty. Did you know that according to the deathpenaltyinfo.org, that there's only a 44% crime rate difference in the states that allow the death penalty and in the states that do not? And from the statistics, does it really seem necessary for the states to allow the death penalty at all? Well, for the people who are still on the fence about this, I'm going to be giving you some reasons why I believe it should be illegal. My first reasons why is that most people on death row right now are on there by mistake. And one popular case affected by this is the Earl Patrick Charles case. And according to the National Registry of Exoneration, he was sentenced to death row for a double murder he did not commit. And the only reason Charles was arrested at the time was because the eyewitness falsely accused him. And the police officer at the time gave a false testimony. And the only reason Charles was exonerated was because 2 years later, an officer looked over the previous officer's testimony and saw the holes in it, and later realized that Charles was at a gas station at the time the murder was supposed to be committed, and that was enough evidence for them to reopen the case. And I say all this because there's a lot of people who has Charles stories and Charles similar situation and are still sentenced to death row. And the second reason for getting rid of the death penalty is that there is a racial and economic discrimination in the application of the death penalty. And what I mean by this is that according to the AmericanMagazine.org, the people generally who are sentenced to death row are poor, poorly educated, and sometimes represented by a public defender. And they also state that there are over 1,000 people on death row right now, and 42% of the people are Black. And even though this claim was supposed to be surprising, I personally was not surprised because of how the state of the world is right now. And it seems that the criminal justice system only appeals to the Black people when it's them actually committing the crime. And my third and final reason for getting rid of the death penalty is that it violates human rights. And according to the ccrjustice.org, the death penalty is a denial of the most basic human rights. It violates one of the most fundamental principles under widely accepted human rights laws that states must recognize the right to life. And for people who still think the death penalty should be illegal, their argument could be that the death penalty is something that the justice system needs to ensure people's safety. And their reasoning could be one is that the death penalty prevents future murderers, and they might use evidence from the death penalty curriculum.org, which states that in 1973, Isaac Elrich came up with a new kind of analysis, which produced results showing that every inmate who was executed, 7 lives were spared because others were deterred from committing the murder. Or they could use the evidence of that the death penalty is encouraged by the Fifth and 14th Amendment. And they could use evidence from the heritage.org, which states that the Supreme Court has held the death penalty to be constitutional. And the Fifth and 14th Amendment carry express approval of the death penalty. A person may not be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. But in all of that, is the death penalty still necessary? Because honestly, it does not seem like a good excuse because from what I stated before, there is no difference in the crime rate between states that allow the death penalty and the states that do not. And if you ask me personally, I believe that the death penalty is a type of punishment that is not sensible for criminals because for people to do to do death penalty worthy crimes, they have to be in a mind state of where they don't even care about what happens to their life at that point because they are willingly taking another person's life or changing that person's life and significant way to where they don't even care. So for me, I would think that the person committing this death penalty worthy crime is in a mental state that they they don't even want to be alive. So for you to sentence them to death penalty is like a cop out because you're giving them basically what they want. And that is relief from the pain and the struggle of the life that they have. But if you take that away and actually put them behind the bars and have them face what they did in an isolated with no freedom, stuck with order, and with people who have done similar crimes with them, it could really change their mindset or change how they believe what life could be and change that person as a whole. But with the death penalty still here, the death penalty is just an easy way for the criminal justice system to be like, oh, well, you did this serious thing. You obviously don't care about your life at all. So why don't we just end it? And for me, I think that is not a type of punishment that the criminal justice system should have. And that is my presentation, and I thank you.